Hi everyone, it's Deb. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you all here today. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the 25 books I'm going to try and prioritise in 2025. So I'm going to make sure it's not a very strict TBR because if you know me, I am the worst at sticking to a TBR. I am very much a mood reader. But I thought if I had this and made this video, maybe I could have 2 books a month or so that I try my best to get to from this list. And to be fair, these are all books that I have been dying to read, and for one reason or another I just haven't been able to get to in 2024. This year has been a very crazy year. I have started a new job, I've been renovating my house, so reading has been slow. So I'm very optimistic that in 2025 I will be able to read all of these books that I'm going to tell you all about. I have decided that I'm going to group these books into 4 categories. The first one being series I'm already in the middle of, so books that I've started this year or maybe even 2023 that I've not yet finished the series in its entirety. I am also going to be telling you about some books that I want to read that are already part of the series, so series I want to start as well in 2025. Books that are either highly anticipated for me that I've been dying to get to, or are new authors to me. And then the 4th category is books that I am a little bit more intimidated of. They're a little bit more out of my comfort zone, but I do really want to stretch myself this next year to make sure that I try and read a wider variety of books than I normally do. And all of the books I'm going to be talking to you today aren't all of the books I'm going to hopefully read, but just the ones that I want to try and make sure I definitely do read. So, with that being said, let's start with the first category, which is books that I'm currently already in the middle of their series. And the first book of that category is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. Now, this book is the last book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, and I have absolutely been enjoying that trilogy so much. So this is the last book. I listened to the 2 of them on audiobook and then kind of like read along as well, so I'll probably do the same for this book. And it is a little bit thicker. I think as they go on, these books get a little bit darker, so I just really am hoping for the best for Pip and Rabbi. The next book that I'm going to try and get to is Crossfire. Now, anyone who has been here for a while will know that Marilee Blackman is one of my absolute favourite authors. Anyone who asks me for a recommendation, I will always almost ask you, have you read the Norton Crosses? You can even see my special edition book right here that I just love. Have you read that series? Because that is my favourite series to this day, even though I read it when I was maybe like 11 or 10. I still absolutely love it, and she has brought out some more books in that series, and it is criminal. I cannot believe that I have not yet picked it up and read it. It just blows my mind. So that is something I am 100% going to do next year. My only qualm with this is, do I just pick this up and start from here, or do I reread Norton Crosses and go from the very beginning and then get to this book? That's what is keeping me from starting it. I'm not sure what to do. Or maybe I just read the last 2 books. Like, I remember the plot quite well, but I want to be really immersed in this world. So I'm not sure, but whatever I do, I will read this book next year, 100%. Another series I'm currently in the middle of is the Legendborn series. I read the Legendborn with Sully and Shuba, and I will link their channels in the description. I'll link everyone that I talk about in the description, and that was so much fun. I unfortunately didn't get around to reading Bloodmarked with them. It was the second book in the series, but I think I was just overwhelmed at the time and I didn't get around to that book. So I'm going to make sure I get round to it next year because I absolutely loved that series, and I've heard that the 3rd book is being released in 2025. So as long as I finish Bloodmarked early part of 2025, then maybe I can do that as a buddy read again with Sheba and Sally, because that was so much fun, and I am obsessed with Bree and the world that they are in that book. It's so interesting, and it is the first fantasy book I've ever read with Black main character, so I absolutely need to make sure I get that book in early 2025. The next book is Cherish by Tracy Wolff. This is the Crave series. I actually think I picked up this book in 2023, and I actually think this is the series that got me back into reading like passionately. I used to read a few books every now and again in my like late 20s. I was just not a good reader back then, and then I read the Crave series and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I loved reading. And long story short, I'm now back to being fully obsessed with reading, so I have a lot to thank this series for. However, now that I am back into my reading era and I've read so many books, especially romantic books, this does feel a little bit more not as impressive as I once thought it was. But that being said, I did still enjoy it when I read it. I did actually love it. So I do want to see how they wrap up their story. This is a vampire, werewolf, mystical creature, high school sort of romantasy book. There is the whole love triangle trope in this. Enemies to lovers is also a big theme in this book, and also family. Just think if it was, think of Twilight, The Vampire Diaries, and Teen Wolf, and then extra mythical creatures like dragons in one book, and you kind of get the Crave series. When this came out, I bought it straight away, but I think because I read so many more books in the middle of it, I forgot about it. So hopefully I'll get to Cherish. The next book is Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. I think this is the next book that I meant to read. I think this is the third book. I don't know if it tells you anywhere what book it is. Yes, it does. So this is the next book that I am going to pick up in the series. It is the third book, and I have been doing this as a buddy read with Nicole, so I will probably carry on that and read this one with her as well. The thing is, Magnolia Parks isn't my favourite character. I much prefer Daisy Hates, but I am way too invested in this series now to not carry on. I have to know what happens. I have to know how they resolve their drama. If they do, most likely they won't. There'll be something else to be fighting about in this book, but I am hooked. I'm obsessed. I get the hype, and I've got to know. And also, I just love this book art so much. So yeah, I can't wait to get to this book and understand why some of these images are on this front cover, because once you read the book, you get the references, don't you? The final book that I want to read, I'm already kind of in the middle of, is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this book was so high on my radar because everyone was talking about Fourth Wing, and I was like, I'm not going to just buy Fourth Wing, I need to buy both. So I bought them both. Well, actually I bought them for Christmas, and then I read Fourth Wing and I liked it. I think I gave it a 4-star. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't as obsessed with it as other people were. And then I started hearing all of the mixed reviews, shall we say, about Iron Flame. Some people love it, some people think it's just way too long, which, I mean, it does look very long. And some people just kind of said the best part was like the last 20 pages, which just did not fill me with hope or joy. But I've seen a lot more people recently say that they have really enjoyed this book, and I did enjoy Fourth Wing, so I feel like I need to find out for myself how that book carries on, or this book carries on from the epic cliffhanger in Fourth Wing, and what's going to happen. So I am going to carry on this series. I am going to hopefully get to this next year. It won't be one of the first ones I pick up, but it's definitely high on my radar. And those are all of the books that I'm already currently in the middle of their series. Next we have new series, so books that are already part of a series that I want to read that series. And we are starting off with the Carabao series. Now, I have not yet read Stephanie Farber's writing, and I have heard such good things about her romantasy books, especially Once Upon a Broken Heart. But because people have recommended that you start with the Carabao series to really appreciate that series, I have bought this one first, and I'm probably going to read the series in its entirety before I then pick up Once Upon a Broken Heart. This is a book about a magical world, and there's some sort of competition that happens and they all are fighting to get one wish. That's all I really know. There's going to be some danger, there's going to be some trials and that kind of thing, and it sounds like it's going to be kind of cozy, really high stakes, and just an interesting ride. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I also love the cover, so I'm really excited about Caraval. This next book is so high on my radar. In fact, I think this will be the first book I pick up in January, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely loved the ACOTAR series, the ACOTAR world. Again, I think that's one of the books that just reignited my love for reading and also my love for fantasy and romance books. So I need to now know if I'm going to be a Throne of Glass girl or a ACOTAR girl. I don't know which one I'm going to like the most. I know I'm so late to the whole bandwagon of loving Throne of Glass, but it's never too late to start a book and see why people love the series so much, and I am definitely intrigued. There are so many books in this series. I have all of them because it was actually a Christmas gift last year from Toby, and I am shocked that I've not picked them up yet. I'm actually so shocked, but I am going to pick it up in January, first thing. And all I really know about this book is that there is a girl who goes to the king, I think she's an assassin even. Yeah, an assassin, that she goes to a castle, and there's a vicious king that she's trying to basically fight for her freedom, win her freedom, and then she has to go through these sort of, is it trials or something, to win her freedom? Yeah, I think they're trials. It's like competition to win her freedom. To be quite honest, I can't see how this is going to be better than ACOTAR just from the blurb, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure that this time next year I'm going to be saying, wow. Well, I hope so anyway. So the next book that I want to start, or series should I say, is Six of Crows, and I have heard such good things about this book, especially from Chelsea, from Libraries and Lattes. Whenever I watch her videos, she is always raving on about how good this book is and how everyone should pick it up. And I got this, I think in the summer from the works for £3, which is such a good deal. And I'm just so curious to know what the hype is about, and it's actually quite a different book for me. I've not really read, I think it's a fantasy book like this, that I don't think there is much romance in this. It's a heist book. They hire this known criminal to break out someone from a court, yeah, into the ice court, to break out someone who might even be a little bit dangerous because she could change the course of their kingdom or wherever they live, and I'm not sure if it'll be for the better or the worse, but the magic system could be changed forever. There's like unlikely friendships and found family I've heard in this book, so I can't wait to go on an adventure with these characters and see why everyone loves this series so much. Next, we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Again, this has been high on my radar for a while because so many people absolutely love this series. I think there's about 5 books or 4 books in this series, and I have read The Naturals by her. I'm currently in the middle of that series, to be fair. The rest of the books have been in my other category, but I think I do want to start this series anyway because I just want to know why everyone loves it. What I know about this book is this girl finds out that she's won a big inheritance from someone she's never even met or doesn't even know, and the family of that person who's died and left that inheritance are so confused as to why she would have been left what they think that they are entitled to. So I think some sort of game happens. Let's see. Yeah, so this strange millionaire who left her all this money, she then has to move into his mansion where there's secrets and things to find out, and she finds herself playing like this dangerous game with his family members. I don't know, it sounds absolutely crazy. I know there's romance in this book as well. I am just so intrigued by the premise of it, so I can't wait to find out if this book lives up to all of the crazy hype it gets. Another series that I really want to start, I haven't got the physical copy, I've got it on my Kindle, but it's One Dark Window, and I am dying to read that book because I've heard such amazing things about the way that the magic system works in that fantasy book. Apparently it's quite gothic and dark and atmospheric, and it just sounds like something I would never have read before. I think people have called it the most unique fantasy that they've read this year, and there are 2 books in that series, I believe, so I am 100% going to try and pick that book up. The next book that I haven't got the physical copy of, but I have it on Kindle as well, is The Stolen Heir. Now, if you know me, you will know that I read The Cruel Prince this year and absolutely became obsessed. I loved that series. I go back and forth about whether it's one of my favourite, whether it is my favourite romantasy series that I've read so far, but I think I'm gonna have to say it's not, because quite frankly the romance in that book is not the main plot, and I actually loved that about the book. It was there and there was a lot of build up to this whole romance, but it wasn't what you were most invested about. You were invested in the characters, and it was so much fun. So I am so excited to dive back into that world to see how those characters are doing, but also meet some new characters and just, yeah, finally get to The Stolen Heir, because I've been missing Holly Black's writing. The last book that I'm going to talk about in this category, but also is a nod to the next category, is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. This book, again, is so high on my radar because everyone who loves fantasy books says it's such a good one, and it's actually kind of also in the next 2 categories of highly anticipated, a new author to me, and also one that is quite out of my comfort zone because this book is very thick, and also I think it's high fantasy, or is it sci-fi? I'm not sure. But either way, it's something that I would not normally naturally pick up, but I trust all of the people who have recommended this book, and I think it's time I up my fantasy game a little bit, because I do love fantasy, so I think I will like high fantasy, maybe, we'll see. I guess I'll find out by reading this book. So I think essentially there's a Dark Lord and someone is trying to train up and defeat the Dark Lord. Now this probably isn't going to encompass the essence of this book. I'm sure I am going to do it no justice until I've read it, but all I know is anyone who reads fantasy or sci-fi, Brandon Sanderson is always someone they recommend. So I have listened and I have picked up the one that I think will be best for a beginner into this kind of genre, which I think might be Mistborn. With that category done and dusted, the next category is going to be highly anticipated books. So books that I've heard such good things about that I've gone out and bought because I really want to read them, but I just haven't had the chance to read them this year, and hopefully I will read them in 2025. And those books are first one, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. Now the reason why this is a very highly anticipated book for me personally is because I really want to read more black authors, more black romances, and I've heard such good things about this book in particular. This book I know is a second chance romance, I think. I think there's a couple in this book that have recently divorced, they have children, but before they let go, they're going to try and see if they can work it out, or they maybe try and rekindle their romance. They're co-parenting, they're pushing through, they never thought their marriage would break down, but here they are. However, there's still that magnetic bond that they feel, and do they want to explore it again before they let go? So this sounds like it's going to be really emotional. I can't wait to get invested into their story and find out more about what happens to these characters. So the next highly anticipated book in this category is The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Now this book is so interesting to me because first of all it was on so many people's favourite books of the year. They read it when they read it, and it's like a magical realism book, which is such an interesting genre that I've not heard of before or read before. And it just sounds like it's going to be all of the feels. I know that grief is a topic that's explored in this video, but also the romance sounds so interesting because the way they describe him on the blurb, he sounds perfect. He's the perfect man, except from the fact that he lives in the past, 7 years ago to be exact. And so I don't know how they're going to do time travel in this book, but it just sounds like it's going to be such a good read, so I can't wait to get into this book. The next book is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I've not even seen the film or the movie for this because I've been adamant that I will not watch it until I have read the book. I think I got this book from World of Books like a while ago, so I didn't spend too much money on this book, and I just really want to know why everyone loved the film, loved the movie, and also loves the book. It sounds so interesting. I love mysteries. I'm not sure if it's a thriller, but I think it's mainly a mystery. And it's about a woman who goes missing, and they start suspecting that her husband is the one that had something to do with her disappearance. Her friends have said that she was scared of him, and apparently there's some weird search history on his computer that the police find out, and then someone keeps persistently calling him. So it's just a mystery of who killed her, if she is dead, or why is she gone, and is the husband a suspect for real, or is he being set up? So I am curious because this book did so well as a book and as a film, so I can't wait to read this one. Next we have Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is one of the books that I have been dying to read because quite literally I watched a review of someone talking about this book, and the way that she was talking about this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read it. So she did a great job in describing how this book apparently is such an amazing romantic book. The fantasy and the romance are equally good, and I just bought it. I didn't even investigate too much about what it's about. I just bought it, so I don't know too much about this book. The blurb doesn't really give much away either. I mean, as always, the toxic family, there's something to fight for, quite like similar plots normally, isn't it? So I'm not sure why this book in particular is so good, but even the ratings on Goodreads are sky high, so I need to know why, because I love romantasy so much as a genre. It's one of my favourite genres, and so of course I'm going to want to read it. But why is the text? Oh no, dude. Oh dearie me, the text is absolutely tiny. I think I might need glasses, to be honest, because whenever I see tiny text, it makes me feel a little bit sick. So is that a sign that I should get glasses? I think it might be. Maybe I'll buy it on my Kindle just so I can make the text bigger. We'll see. We'll see. Next book is by Riley Sager, The Only One Left. Again, whenever you watch videos about thriller books, like the best thriller books to read, I always hear Riley Sager's name, and I've only really read thrillers by Freedom McFadden. I've read, okay, that's a lie, I've read a few others, but she's probably the main thriller writer I've read, and I think people are always saying, to get Freedom McFadden, try Riley Sager. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. And The Only One Left is one of the popular books by him. So this is about, everyone believes that Nora Hope is a mass murderer. When the Hope family was massacred decades ago, she was the only one left alive after the tragic night. Mute, paralysed and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora has never been able to tell her side of the story until her new live-in caregiver, Kit, brings her a typewriter. And with one working finger, Lenora begins to type, "I want to tell you everything." That sounds so good. That sounds so good. And do you know what I will do? And I'm going to try and not do this. I'll be like, this sounds like a perfect book to read for Halloween or for the spooky season, and it does, but I'm not gonna wait until then to read it, because that's why I end up not getting around to it, because then there's other books that I may be already in the middle of or want to pick up as well, and I just don't get around to this one. So I'm just going to read it when I want to read it. I'm not gonna wait for Halloween. Next one is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now, Ali Hazelwood is known for her romance books, so when she brought out like a fantasy romantic style book, it was a big deal because I think it was the first one she's actually ever written. I've only read The Love Hypothesis by her, so I've not read her other romance books, but I've heard they're all really good. But when I saw that she had a book about vampires and werewolves, I was like, okay, you've got me, I want to read this. I think there is maybe a marriage of convenience in this book to save each other's kingdoms. I don't know if she marries a werewolf and she's a vampire, or maybe the other way around. I'm not sure, but it's very paranormal. Okay, so she is the daughter of the most powerful vampire. And is she going to be marrying a vampire or a werewolf? Oh, okay. So she's going to be marrying into a very powerful family of vampires. Maybe there aren't werewolves in this book. Oh no, there are. Alone with the Wolf. Do you know what? I don't know. All I know is that is a paranormal romance book, and that is my jam. So I'm intrigued. I've heard mixed things about this one, but Ashley from Ashley's Book List has assured me that she's read it and she liked it, so I'm sure I will too. Another highly anticipated book that I really want to read next year is The Family Experiment by John Mars. This year I read John Mars for the first time and fell in love with his writing. He writes very sort of sci-fi, dystopian books. Two of his books I've read so far I have been obsessed with, especially The Passengers, but I also loved The One. I even made a whole video about Passengers. I was that obsessed with it. It was like watching a Black Mirror episode. It was so much fun, especially listening to the audiobook. So I'm going to carry on the trend and I'm going to listen to The Family Experiment as an audiobook as well. And what it is about is essentially there is a world where virtual babies are a thing. I mean, crazy, right? So virtual babies are a thing. It's kind of like a competition. There are 10 families who are trying for a baby, I think, but they haven't been able to have one. And so instead they opt into this sort of virtual baby, and the aim is to raise the baby from 0 to 18 in a short amount of time. So they only have 9 months, I think, to do this. So they're going to become super attached, and at the end they've got to decide whether they want to keep that virtual child that they've raised for 18 years or give them up forever and try and have a human baby. Does that not sound like the most insane plot and also a Black Mirror episode? I cannot wait to read that. I cannot wait to read that. The last book in this category is Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World. Now, I don't know how I've not picked up this book yet, because I have been so intrigued about Abby Jimenez's writing. I even brought this book along with me on holiday to maybe read it, but then I ended up picking up an Emily Henry book. So it's just not been good timing, and I am definitely going to ensure I read this in 2025, because I want to know if it's true, if her writing is really that good as a romance writer, because I love romance. So it's probably a weird thing that I've not read an Abby Jimenez book as someone who loves romance books. So we're going to change that, and this is a book about a very successful woman. I think she's in a family of doctors or surgeons, and she meets a carpenter who is 10 years younger than her, and she has a bit of fun with him, but then the feeling starts to get caught, and I think she's trying to navigate how on earth they're going to make it work and mesh their two very different lives together. So it sounds like it'll be a really interesting book. I know there's a blog as well in this book that people love, so I'm intrigued. I want to read her writing, and that is why it's in my highly anticipated category. The last category are books that are a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm still very intrigued and excited to read. First one being The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think this book is absolutely gorgeous, and I also think the premise of this book is so fascinating. I think Addie LaRue basically makes a deal with the devil essentially to live forever, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the catch is, because of this, she has to be invisible. No one actually can see her, no one is able to see her, so she's living this life for many years but cannot not see her, remember her. I think they are able to talk to her, but literally as soon as she goes they forget her. I think that's it. So she's just gone without having any long-lasting, meaningful relationships in her everlasting life. That is until she meets this one person, I think it's a guy, that does remember her. And she's like, how is this possible and why now? So I am so intrigued. It's so different to things I've read before. Well, kind of, not really, but I think there's quite a historical element to that, and I'm a little bit scared of historical romances, but I think this will be a really interesting one. I've also got This Is Going to Heart by Adam Kay. This book went absolutely viral whenever it came out. I'm not even sure when it came out, but everyone was talking about it, but I never ever got around to picking it up. And my lovely friend Megan's Journal, she linked this she lent this book to me. It's about the life of a junior doctor, and I think it's essentially his journals that he writes down, his encounters of different patients and experiences that he has in the hospital. And I am so intrigued to know what he experiences, because I actually wanted to be a doctor when I was younger. For the longest time, if you asked me which one to be, I'd say a children's doctor. That was my dream. And then I realised I hated biology and chemistry, so it didn't really add up. But I cannot wait to find out what happens in this book. The next book that I think is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but again I can't wait to read, is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is, I think, quite a philosophical book. My brother read it and he is so into philosophy and he thought it was really good. And I've heard a lot of great things about Matt Haig. I think this book is essentially about purgatory. So our main character has been having like the worst time ever. Her life has not been going well. It says, then at the stroke of midnight, on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported into a library. She's given a chance to undo her regret and try out each of the other lives she might have lived. Oh wow, that sounds so interesting, doesn't it? That is so interesting. Like, you know when you have those thoughts of, I wonder what would have happened if I did this instead of this. I'm so intrigued. Is it cheating if I read a book that's in 2024 that one in 2025? Nah, it's my life, it's fine. Okay, last book that I'm going to want to try and pick up, but it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, is Fleabag. This is written as a script, which is so cool. I'll show you the first page so there's no spoilers, in case anyone else decides to pick up the screenplay of Fleabag. I hope you can see that. My brother bought this for me last Christmas because he was like, I'm not going to pick a book from your TBR or from your want to read, I'm going to pick you a book that I want you to read. Which, fair play to him, because this is definitely out of my comfort zone. But I did actually start this year. I couldn't invest all my time into it because I just wasn't, I don't know, in the right mindset to read something so different. But I think I definitely will want to next year. And I actually watched the first episode of Fleabag with my brother this year, and it is so funny. So I think it'll be so fun to read the screenplay. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. And if anyone has watched Fleabag, let me know, because I know it's a very British a thing, and I know a lot of people who watch my videos are actually in America, so if you haven't got feedback, it is a British comedy, and it is very funny, so I've heard. So I'm intrigued to actually read the screenplay. Those are all of the books I'm going to try my best to prioritise in 2025, and I cannot wait. It's always so nice having a new year. It's like a fresh start, a new slate, a clean slate, hopefully less reading slumps, hopefully a quieter life, no more reno stress. I mean, we'll see. And also I feel much more settled in my new job, so I'm really hoping that next year will be a great year to achieve all of the reading goals I'm going to set for myself, and just push myself out of my comfort zone, read more books I wouldn't read, and try new authors, try new genres. Let me know if there are any books I've spoken about that you think I would love and should therefore read earlier on in 2025. And also let me know what books that are high on your priority list, shall we call it, for 2025. Thank you so much if you made it to this part of the video. I really appreciate those of you who watched the whole thing, and if you haven't already, it would be so cool if you would subscribe, and we can talk more books in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy New Year! Bye!